Hey everyone, my name is Forex Extraordinaire, and seeing as the last Civ 6 video I put out was so popular, I wanted to do a follow-up for this new Commanders pack and cover Suleiman and his persona and how it shapes up to his regular abilities, because I think this is quite different from what I covered last time with Nader Shah. So yes, in terms of drip comparison, regular Suleiman is completely blown out of the park when you compare him to Magnificent Suleiman or his new persona, whatever the hell you want to call it. His onion hat is back and it is better than ever. And with that, I think he just absolutely curb stomps Suleiman and any other leader that dares to oppose him in any kind of hat comparison tier list. And I will be vetting those in the future thoroughly. So if you are putting out a hat tier list, I will be coming after you. Jokes aside though, Suleiman has some incredible bonuses. Not only does he get the janissaries as a unique unit, and he has two very powerful units to start off with: the Barbary Corsair, which is unique to Turkey, or the Ottomans as they are called officially in the game, and then the unique unit to him, the janissaries, which cannot be built in his home cities without a penalty, but are very, very dominant, I think, in the industrial era and later onwards, although they have a strict requirement. I think with the population loss for his domestic cities, they are still very, very powerful and definitely one of the better units to employ. The Barbary Corsair is not as good because naval combat is pretty gimped, I think, in general. Not only does the AI not use it too much, but depending on your map settings and whatnot, if you're playing Pangaea, for example, it will almost never be used. So I think out of the two units, Magnificent Suleiman is already starting at a disadvantage when you compare these two leaders. Even if you're just comparing what Suleiman gets, I think Ibrahim is a massive step up just due to his unique playstyle. Suleiman base is the only leader that gets a unique governor, and the only unique governor in the game is Ibrahim. So by default, it's going to be a lot more flavorful, and you have one additional governor to your arsenal. That said, you will be using more promotions, but I think the increase in terms of playstyle and flexibility is just such a massive bonus, and Magnificent Suleiman is going to have a very hard time replicating that flexibility. So on the upside, and I won't be consistently bashing Magnificent Suleiman throughout the entirety of the video, the upside, aside from the drip and that magnificent hat, is that his abilities come on instantly, whereas with the other version, or the Jahuni version of Suleiman, I am not familiar with these words and I am butchering the pronunciation, trust me, I know. But with Magnificent Suleiman, they come on instantly and they are fairly powerful for what you get. Plus 50% science and culture when in a golden age or a heroic age is pretty good for scaling. And then plus 4 combat strength when not in a golden age or heroic age against civilizations who are also not in a golden age or a heroic age. While it is fairly specific and it can be stringent at times, I don't think it will be as limited as Lotoro's release, where he had a very, very finicky bonus for combat strength against civs that are in a basically golden age or heroic age, which is not as reliable. I think you're always going to have something going on, whether it be the science or culture boost or the combat boost. So I think the idea with this civ is that you are going to be going for an early game rush with that plus 4 combat strength, because it will wear off fairly quickly once you get into something like the medieval era. It'll still be relevant, but once you've done a fair bit of conquering, you are going to go through the cyclical period where you turn off your combat or aggression or your warmongering, and then you go for a more passive city building focus. And then once you have more targets, when you come back out of a golden age or heroic age, you then go back on the aggressive or the offensive and attack more civs and try to take their cities with your siege bonuses, which will come in handy. Speaking of siege bonuses, the Great Turkish Bombard will complement both Suleiman's well. That additional production towards siege units is not going to be useful in the ancient era to start off with. I think the siege tower is very lackluster, but that plus 5 combat strength against defensible districts is going to come in handy when you are ransacking the city center. So that's going to be a plus 9 potentially if you are timing your things right or going for an ancient era rush against other people's cities. And I think that will be pretty powerful if you have a force of warriors and slingers built up to go on a conquest. I can't really shake off the fact that they are losing Ibrahim with Magnificent Suleiman, because it is such a flavorful addition, and I kind of wish they added that to Magnificent Suleiman, if I am being honest, because something like the plus 20% production to all military units in the city would be really, really helpful for early game or ancient or classical era rushes, which the Ottomans normally do not have. But I think it's just such a waste to not have this on Magnificent Suleiman. Yes, he has some pretty powerful bonuses, but I think adding Ibrahim would not be overkill, and instead further boost the customization and usability of that Magnificent Suleiman kit. I spoke briefly about the janissaries earlier, and I think it is a shame that Magnificent Suleiman will be losing them because they are a strict upgrade to the musketmen, and they have unique, flavorful restrictions, I think, similar to what they did historically with Greek recruitment and the janissaries and all their different individual rebellions. I think it's a unique system, and I like the way that it factors in you actually having to do some domination and conquest. You have to be successful before you set up for a later game push with the janissaries, and I really like that. But that loss of the janissaries is going to make it much harder for Magnificent Suleiman, and it's going to be interesting to count at the end of the video if any of you guys can comment down below how many times I mentioned Suleiman. But I'm going to go past and ignore that point because I think it's just generally sad that Magnificent Suleiman is going to struggle a lot with late game pushes because he is lacking those options. And let's be honest, the Barbary Corsair is not going to do a lot of heavy lifting, so to say, unless you are on a big heavy ocean map like Archipelago or small continents that really help you factor in Barbary Corsairs to raid and harass the enemy, because you're not going to be taking cities with them. To my knowledge, you're really just going to be harassing and burning their fishing boats and their ports. So not really at the top of the list, I think, in terms of usability, and most naval units usually aren't. One thing I haven't spoken about too much is the Grand Bazaar, and that is the unique building for the Ottomans. It replaces the bank, and I think it is going to be less useful, similarly for the reasons I've talked about with the Janissary for Magnificent Suleiman, just because of the fact that it comes later, and you're not going to get that much mileage out of the Great Merchant points or anything like that. The extra resource accumulation may be helpful if you do want to go for a late game push, but without the extra effort, I would say, of the Janissaries, them being such a powerful replacement for the musketmen, it's going to be significantly harder, and without the assistance of Ibrahim II, to mount, again, a late game push or a late game offensive to take a few cities. You'll definitely have a better time in it than some of the other domination leaders or how some of the domination civs that focus on the early game, but it's still going to be considerably harder, I would think, to continue to push like that compared to your earlier game with the ancient and classical eras and all your different buffs to that combat strength. That's going to be it for today's video, though. I will be hopefully streaming Tokugawa tomorrow, so if you are seeing this video later, hopefully you can check out my stream and see if I was successful or not, but I am going to be doing my best at city building with Tokugawa tomorrow when the second wave of this pack releases. So in general, I guess to sum this video up, I do like Magnificent Suleiman. I think he adds an interesting approach to the gameplay of base game Ottomans, where it's not entirely focused on conquest and mayhem and ripping people's heads from their bodies, blah, blah, blah. But it is not without its flaws, and I think there could be a bit more consideration for additions like Ibrahim in the future to kind of pad that out. Who knows, Magnificent Suleiman and his onion hat drip could be absolutely bussin', 10 out of 10, but I don't think that's likely. I think base game Suleiman edges him out quite a bit. I may have to eat my own words, but please let me know what you guys think in the comments of this comparison video, and also who you want me to compare in the future. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Love you guys. Peace.